Good afternoon and welcome to Options Tender. Just want to do a quick update on SPY as we're getting a bounce, in my opinion, a dead cat bounce. If you're not familiar with that, that just means we're going to make a lower high and a lower low. There's two ways that this can go out, and I'm going to show you that on the 65-minute. First, we're going to go through the weekly and the daily quickly. And we'll have to take a look at VIX just so we can kind of see what that is up to, what kind of clues it's going to give us. And I think we'll get a lower high in the VIX as well, just in the near term. And I'll show you what's going on. And my buddy wanted me to kind of update Bitcoin, so I'll run through at the end. I'll run through some higher time frames down to the daily on Bitcoin. Just kind of show you what I think it's going to do. I think Bitcoin is a proxy for the market. I think that Bitcoin says that there's liquidity when Bitcoin is going up. I believe it shows that there's risk available and that the market should follow as well. Not going to get too much more into that, but that's my point of view. Okay, looking at SPY on the daily time or on the weekly time frame, let's get into it. If you're new here, go down to that bottom right hand corner, hit that Options Tender logo and subscribe. I'm going to show all those new people what our pathway is, that we have two pathways that we're looking at. Here's SPY on the weekly time frame. We talked about on Friday getting this bounce off of the 20 simple moving average on the weekly time frame. We talked about the kiss of death when we do break down under the 20, if we break down from it, and coming back to retest it and heading lower, that would be a sign of a recession to come. Now, not getting ahead of ourselves, we're getting a bounce off of here. This bounce could be fairly shallow and head lower for another low for just this first leg, or we're done with this first leg and we're going up for our lower high dead cat bounce, and we'll start to target our lower levels that I've been talking about constantly in each and every video, and I'll show you that on the daily time frame, so make sure you stick around. By the way, we do these videos often, sort of a time frame we constantly go over when there's new information that says things. So stuff can change tomorrow. Hit that notification button, in other words, because if information shows us something different tomorrow, we have to make sure that you guys are on the right path, and we'll go from there. So after we get this bounce, clearly the 8 is above us. The 8 EMA is our indicator, our trend indicator on all time frames. We're underneath that. The trend is down at this point. So at some point, I do think we're going to retest this 8 EMA. It's up around this 506 area, so keep that in mind. Going to the daily. Daily trend is our friend. For traditional technical analysis, we have our peak way up here, all that confluence that we talked about over and over. Now we're getting close to the 100-day moving average. So that would be our next target if we have a shallow breakdown. It's very possible that we have one more move to the downside. That would represent some support and resistance here. The reason why I'm so zoomed out is because I don't want you to forget this is consolidation zone from our former all-time high, and this consolidation zone that I think we're ultimately going to retest with the 200, even a spike lower, all the way to 460 would be our lowest kind of zone there that we're looking at, that consolidation zone. Price wants to continue lower. We have a possible channel bottom here as well. That would be pretty intense of a move, but anything's possible, especially with all the constant gamma flips and moves. They go much larger than you expect. Clearly, this move. Okay, so digging in just a little bit closer, this consolidation here, we also had a support resistance here where you had resistance, made support, couple days, and then another support here. So that's why I would say it's the next one. Right now, we're just testing the lower end of this consolidation. This is kind of messy here. So you have two real supports that we have if you want to double those up, and we're bouncing off one of them right now. So on the daily time frame, our 8 EMA is around the 403 area. So that's very important for my look at things today on the lower time frames. On the higher time frames, the 506, we're looking at that as a weekly. We can go up a little bit higher. That's also the breakdown candle high from up here. So now we have this kind of zone of 503 to 506. Keep that in mind. Again, 503 to 506. And then also we'll take a look at some higher levels as well. But 503 to 506 are going to be really important for our trend indicators. And so when we go to look at some of these retracement levels, I'll show you on the 65-minute. Super important. So if you don't have time to stick around for this whole video, make sure you look on the lower time frames if you're a near-term trader. Okay, so that's it for traditional technical analysis. Let's go ahead and look at our projection. This is what we're looking at. We've been looking at this for months and months and months and months. So I actually had this sort of lined up almost a year ago, but I didn't have faith that this was the primary situation. So now that we have more information, we have an expanding ending diagonal. That's a top pattern, a topping pattern. It's also considered a blow off top. You have momentum gaining as the trade evolves, as a pattern forms. So 3-wave move up for one. These are all 3 waves. There's 5 of them. 1, 2. You notice how expanding 3, expanding 4, we're getting wider, and just a blow off top for 5. This was right at the 172 extension of this entire move. All right. Now, just while we're on this is our primary scenario where we get not in a straight line. This is going to have a bounce, a continuation lower. And this isn't the target area. Okay, this is in the zone, but I think it might even go lower to cross this top here. So to test that top at least. All right, but this is just showing you my path. A move down, a bounce, a move lower, not in a straight line. If our alternative scenario, and this is a much cleaner look, this is a much cleaner chart I have here. So I'll show you this, the second target up above from the extension of this entire move from 2022. If price wants to make a new high, that would be our next target. Okay, so that gives us an opportunity to show our secondary pathway. This is a regular ending diagonal. There's all sorts of time situations here, and we're not going to talk about those until we get closer to some of them. Okay, so this regular ending diagonal this is all wave 1. It's a 3-wave move. Again, they're all going to be 3 waves. There's 5 of them. This is 1. Wave 2. Wave 3 ended, and we are currently in wave 4. Now, the reason why, if you're a bear or a bull, like I had a video last week, check that out. I'll put it up above. If you're a bear or bull, you're looking for the same pathway right now. I think that we're going to go lower into a wave 4 if this is the scenario, and it's going to be very sharp. And the reason why is when you have an ending diagonal, a lot of these waves, this could be a flat pattern here, but most of the waves are zigzags. And that's a 5-3-5. So this being such a huge move correcting, this would be a 5-wave down, 3-wave correction, and a 5-wave move down. Very sharp. And so it's going to confuse us. It's going to be difficult to tell if it's going to be a full 5 waves for initial move, a dead cat bounce and lower, or a 3-wave sharp move and then a new highs. So that's why it's so difficult to trade. That's why you have to have trading plans. That the wave 4, I think it's going to end somewhere in the early May here. We have some time factors. We won't know until we get near that time. That might be the top for this bounce. Okay? That might be the top where we have these time factors. And then maybe the bottom is somewhere into the next time factors. I will add some more on here. Now that we made new highs, I can add another time factor. And if we make another low, I'll consider that a major low. And we'll look for some time factors there. Okay. Moving on to the 65. Stick with me. This is really good information. We had this large rising wedge. We broke down from that wedge. Really difficult, choppy breakdown. Now we're expanding. Had a very, very big move on options expiration week. So we have this resistance and support. It's also what I call a bow and arrow. What is called, not what I call, is called a bow and arrow, where we have a triangle. This is support and resistance because we have volume. We have a volume node in there. And so we're getting support there. I just drew this channel for a point of reference. We only have 1 point, so this is not a valid trend line, okay? If we go lower, this would be about 491 would be our next target area. I don't think it would be a very large move to the downside, but if we do move lower, we have to watch the options expected move to the downside. All right, right now we're looking for, look at that, 503. Very important area. That's an 8 EMA on the daily time frame. So digging in a little closer here, we had a falling wedge. We broke out from that wedge today. We were holding on to support at that 496 area. So we went long here today. And what we're going to look at, and this is, I'm going to flip over to the next board. What's important is this a retracement to this area or retracement higher? All right, if you notice, our 506 zone is right about there. That's the top of this consolidation. And then a 503 to 506, that's a zone. And then our 50 and 20 moving averages were up here. That's the top of the channel. That's going to be important too. So how do we know? How do we trade this if we don't know this, either the pathway that we're looking at? Let me go ahead and go over to the other board. Keep that in mind with the 511. Okay. Here's the pathway. We had some time relationships on Friday. So that's how we were considering this a bottom on Friday. That's what we talked about. Now we're getting some other time relationships out in April 24th, 25th. So we'll see where price is when that's going into that zone. It's not a predictor of where price is going, but when you get into that zone, if you're already up here, it's a good estimation that might be the top. Okay? Now, here's our pathways. We had our low. This is the first pathway saying that we might get new lows. And that this is just a smaller bounce. Okay, so I took the top of the possible wave 2. So if this is all wave 1, we get a wave 2, wave 3 down, or even C, which would mean that this is completed, but we get a wave 3 down. Now, what typical wave 4 right here, typical wave 4 goes into the 38.2% retracement. Clearly, we're above the 23.6 already. So that could end up being support. But our resistance is going to be a very critical zone. And guess what? It's 503. That 503.50, the options expected move is a 503.70. This zone is going to be very important to see where that bounce goes from here. So perhaps we get up to this point even today. Today are going into turnaround Tuesday. Excuse me, tomorrow. If and when we get up to this point, I'm going to put on some put hedges. I'm going to take a little bit of profit and put on some hedges, because even if we're correcting way up here, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we're going to have to get and stay on top of the 38.2%. So this is a good point. So this would be some sort of pattern into that zone and then new lows. So turnaround Tuesday, we could easily make it up here, gap down into tomorrow, and I don't want to presume where we're going to be. And then we'll be looking for that 491 wave 5 down here. All right, so just pay attention to the purple right now. Don't worry about what's happening here in the turquoise. I'm just messing around with things with those numbers, okay? So we're wave 3, possible wave 4, and 5 would be around, my guess is around that 491 going into one of these time zones. Get those out of the way. Get out of the way. So the big question is, is this the higher degree wave 1 here, and this move is done, and we're getting our bounce up to the red levels, or is the wave 1 here? And those are going to be A or 1. So that will follow the one around. If we're done with our move and we're at the 21 week, we're done with it, we touched it, we're going to move higher. We have our first thing is to get over this 503 area. That's the 8 EMA on the daily. Our trend indicators can be very important to get above here. So make sure you take off risk and you manage your account any way that you can at this point. We start getting above there, and now we can say the wave 1 is here. So as of right now, we're kind of looking at this being, we have one more low, and we're going to take some profit here. If we get above, we're going to move that one over here, and there should be some sort of formation. No matter what, we should get a reaction off of this 382, get a higher low, and move higher if this low is good and we're done here. Now, if we move higher, here's where, let me adjust this. Okay, so now we have to take the retracement from the entire move to the downside. That's what the red is going to represent, the entire move from top to bottom. And so after the 503.61, we're looking for 50%. If we don't get a new low, we're looking for the 509 all the way up to 513, just under 13. You know what that represents? That channel top there, just underneath, will probably make it 513, the channel top. All right, now this is a moving, and 13 is actually a little bit above. I don't know if we can adjust this, point to point. Maybe we can adjust it a little bit higher. We'll see. But the 510 is a valid point as well. So for 510, if it takes us some time, lower high, and then we go boom, and that would be like a flat pattern for a possible wave 2. All right, that white wave 2. Then it looks like 509 would be more of the point where price would head lower. So our wave 2, we're looking for that 50-60% retracement. This would be more of the channel top if it takes a little bit of time to get there. And if we get a new low, then remember that channel's falling, so the price is going to change. And we'll do this, another update to keep you consistent, but this is going to be our critical level, 503, about 50, 503.50. And it's very typical for wave 4 to go into the lower degree wave 4s. So this wave 4, possible wave 4, that's right in between them. That would be right in the good zone for a wave 4 to happen. So let me try to get this video out soon. Let me go to VIX. And all we're looking at with the VIX, if we get a new low, the VIX had a nice big move to the downside today. All right, so if the VIX gets a nice bounce into tomorrow, turn around Tuesday, I suspect we'll get a lower high and we'll probably make new lows in the SPX, but a lower high giving us divergence for the VIX. Okay? And then lower prices for the VIX, probably retest around this 15 zone. So if we get a bounce in VIX, either we're making a higher low in SPX or we're going, or SPY, or we're getting that lower low. All right. So you got to be very careful, but I still think we make it up to that 382. Just be careful on how we get there once we get to that point. Let's go ahead, and that's all I have for you for that. I hope that was very clear. Let's go to Bitcoin. Let's check out Bitcoin. Let's go on the higher time frames. And this is going to be a quick breakdown from monthly, weekly, and then daily. Just so you can, I didn't update anything on these. I want you to kind of see how I do things when I start looking at the charts. So this is a monthly time frame on the Bitcoin futures. This is our previous, let me duplicate this so I can make a, this is our previous all-time high here. So we're at a zone. Made a top, resistance. Now we're using it as support. Can it go higher from here? Certainly, especially from the looks at this higher time frame. But this being a monthly, I'm kind of guessing, I think it'd be a good guess that we get some sort of tweezer top here. Tweezer top can be, this candle can almost be anything. We have a top, we have a lower high, and no matter if it's a harami, a hangman, a full blown red candle, that's going to be a possible tweezer top. We have the 8 EMA all the way down here. If price breaks below this 60,000 zone, I think we're headed down to all the way down to about the 47, our next zone on the monthly time frame that would spike through the 8 EMA. And I guess what I'm really trying to get at is I do think we're going to get a new high in Bitcoin. I know that sounds, I think we're going to make a higher high in Bitcoin and a lower high in the SPY. That's what I'm kind of getting at. I see a possible 5-wave move up here. We're only at 1, 2, 3. This could be the wave 4 and then a 5. All right. And SPY, like I said, SPY very well could do the same thing. That's why we have it as our alternate scenario. And we'll have more information as price gets to those levels. Let's move down to the weekly. On the weekly time frame, look, we're holding those former all-time highs. We're holding there. We're holding above the 8 EMA. There's nothing really bearish about it at this point because we're pushing off that 8 EMA. If we would have closed underneath it last week, we would have kind of a different story here. So as of right now, maybe we go directly to make a new high while SPY has its bounce, while the market has its bounce. And now we have a divergence on the market where the market's going to get a lower low, and this Bitcoin finally would make a high up above here. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just the way it looks. Indicators can tell us other things. We have no divergence in any of this, so that would be a great opportunity to short. If we get a new high, we'll probably get lower highs in these indicators. The MACD hasn't quite broken down yet. It's holding that 8 EMA. Tried to break down. Maybe the MACD makes a higher high, but the RSI makes a lower high, meaning a little bit of weakness and a slow start. Not all of them have to do it. See if we have any counts. Nope, 9. Nothing really up here. So let's go down to the daily. daily trend is our friend. So I drew another channel going up here. Nothing really to see here. Oh, here's something to show you. Here's our channel. We had lots of consolidation in this triangle type move and a breakdown from there. And now we're back testing that triangle right now. So on the daily time frame, is this a sell signal? I don't know about a signal, but this is a great setup for the downside. We held the channel. We get up above. We're above the 8 EMA, so it's looking kind of strong. If we get above this 20 simple moving average, I would say this market's trying to go higher, and that all this was an A B wave was a triangle. So you had our initial wave move down for A, a triangle for B, and a lower low for C, and that this move is over. And we make the new highs. See how this is kind of a dilemma? You can look at it both ways. But for right now, this, if you're a bear, is just a back test of this triangle, and we head lower. If you're a bull, we have this beautiful channel in the blue. And here's the bottom of wave 1. We had wave 3. And this is the bottom of wave 4, which works perfectly with technical analysis. Wave 4 comes back to the bottom of the channel and to make new high. Super important. So bullish on Bitcoin, I would lean a little bit more. I would not go long right here. That's I would wait till we get above either the 20 or the 68,000 would be a good level to get on top of and use as a point of reference. So that's what I got to show you. Thanks for joining us here at Options Center. Have a wonderful day. We will talk to you tomorrow.